Welcome back. You're watching Standpoint here on Morning Prime. With the question is, who should be at the ICC? Is it right Honorable Raila Odinga or IG Koome or Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua right now? They've written a letter to, of course, the prosecutor. This is Karim Khan, that some of the allegations of the 9 protesters that died in the hands of police should be interrogated by the pre-trial chamber. This is what we're discussing, holding court with Senator Danson Mungatana, who is the Senator of Tana River. We have Senator of Bomet as well. This is Hilary Sigay. We have Dr. James Nyikal, who is a senator who is a member of parliament for Seme, and we have as well Beatrice Elachi, member of parliament for Dagoretti North. So I'd asked that question, and I promised to circle back with you, Dr. Nyikal. Who should be there, and does it really merit to be at the table of ICC?
Honorable Mungatana actually started off well that the laws, if you sign to any treaty, that treaty becomes part of our law. So if it's a Kenyan law in that context, then anybody who feels aggrieved should go there. And if the process itself is a legal process, then the process will determine whether there's merit in what is going on. We shouldn't spend so much time worrying that should have somebody go. People can go to court when they want, if they want, and it is the court that will tell them this has no merit, and the court has even sanctions that it will provide if they feel there's an abuse of the court process. If we start saying on this thing which you feel is a crime or you feel is an infringement on your right, that you should look at other factors before you seek a process and where you seek the process, I think that in itself will not be right. So if the Honorable Prime Minister feels that this has gone, and I share that view, because what has happened, I've been in this Mandaman for a long time in my earlier, and I know Senator here himself, I know has been in this many times. It is actually the police that aggravate these things. You go, you have a demonstration going on. It is relatively peaceful until the police appear. Now look at our case now. Me, the one case that I really wonder, that officer who actually bashed the car, it was a journalist's car, I think, a journalist's car, and then lobbed tear gas into it. What has happened to him? It is in the view of everybody. So what normally makes people decide where to go? If you lose faith, the desire to go to ICC is actually an indication that we have lost faith on what our systems will do. If you look at I think one of the offices that is involved with this is the office of the DPP's office, Director of Prosecution. And you look at how they've been up and on. This time they say they seem to have been ordered to do this, and then they did it. This time they change again on the other side. You start to ask yourself, if I go there, what am I going to get? Probably I won't get anywhere. And you see things that are obvious. Has any action been taken in cases that are obvious, that are on camera, that people can be identified?
Allow me to butt it, just for the benefit of also British Elachi. This is a letter that we have there, the Office of the Prosecution, information on the situation in Kenya, communication to the Office of the Prosecution on the situation in Kenya in the period 20th March 2023 to date 2nd April 2023. I'll spare you the details there so that I can just actually go to the meat of it. This is the introduction, and this is the political situation. I'll just read it to what they're saying. Ever since William Ruto was sworn in as president of Kenya on 13th September 2022, his Kenya Kwanza regime has exhibited disdain for the constitution and laws of Kenya and contempt for the democracy and its institutions. The state has moved quickly to capture the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the judiciary. Everyday critical decisions have been made in flagrant violation of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity, which has seen the withdrawal of all criminal charges from members of the ruling coalition and the appointment to the cabinet and other senior government positions. To prevent any criticism, the regime has destroyed the political opposition by bribing its members and recruiting them to take positions against the party leadership, and targeted the free press by pressuring management of media institutions to sack journalists critical of the regime, and also physically assaulting cameramen while on duty covering opposition activities. To protest against the deteriorating political and economic situation in Kenya, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party called for nationwide demonstrations through the exercise of the fundamental rights enshrined under Article 1, Subsection 1 and Subsection 2, and Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya. And Articles 1 and 2 states as follows. Well, you know all about this. And it goes on and on. I can't be able to read all. But this just gives you an excerpt of what is really contained in this particular letter. So you can just finish so we can hear
so actually,
some of these allegations that you've raised.
I haven't seen the letter, but to me, in this country, because that letter is now broader, two things have to me been a violation of the judicial system and even parliamentary system. One, but the behavior of the behavior of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, the withdrawal of those cases, particularly to people who are getting high to offices, and the subsequent behavior in other cases. You then say, who is now going to follow this matter? We say that we should use our local processes. But if one of the highest offices that are actually at the center of this is behaving as it is, who is going to do the prosecution? That is one. Then maybe because you brought the letter, I didn't know that I think our colleague is a lawyer. I didn't know that supermajority in parliament is actually a bad thing for a country, because because you cease to discuss anything. People simply say, let's put the question, and then the chair says, is that the mood of the house? And people shout. And when I've told you this many times, and when I really lost it, is when we picked the deputy the deputy governor of the central bank. We didn't discuss. There was the move. It was moved. It was proposed, and it went.
And the mood was good.
And the mood was good.
And against the mood, it was
okay.
So
there goes also the issue of the people who are either bought or coerced to act against their own parties and move the other side. They got a majority the other side and actually killed the whole thing of democracy in parliament as it is.
All right.
So when you reach that situation, then you reach a desperate situation where you know that the local systems will not help. So you can put it to ICC. If we are afraid as a country that taking these things to ICC will open up to a bigger things, then it means there are things we are hiding. And why should we hide such things? Let somebody who can
let me hear from Hillary. So just listening to some of the sentiments that have been raised here and put to the table of ICC, does it really warrant actually to be on the table of ICC?
Thank you very much, Jabal. I'm just still loving from my colleagues' feeling of the importance of supermajority. Yeah. And by the way, at the Senate, we are now 42. So we have the supermajority. We can even do what is right, and at any given time, we have the numbers. It is not that bad, as we would say. It is entirely dependent on the leadership.
No,
and in this case, the majority by the Kenya Kwanza is a very objective majority. We can never do a wrong when Kenyans want something to be done. That was it.
You do the word never.
The story of ICC is a big story, by the way. It is a big story. ICC alone, when Mungatana says we have signed the statutes in the ICC as a requirement by our constitution, that be it. But then ICC does not just come in to replace the judicial system of the country. It's largely complementary, and that is the law. Now, speaking as a lawyer, then we can only invite ICC when the local or the domestic system is unwilling and unable to do. Unwilling and unable to do. That is why ICC is complementary to the domestic jurisdiction. We are not yet there. We haven't gotten there. The jurisdiction of ICC is also very specific. It deals with crimes against humanity. It deals with, which are actually large scale, I would say. It deals with genocide. It deals with war crimes largely committed by the state, either against its own citizen or an aggression to another state. None of what has happened in Kenya gets closer to what I've just said, and that is what the ICC is all about. When you look at that letter, it's a pity, and I feel it's part of the misadvice that Raila has all along been taken through. It is part of the cheap publicity that I'm shocked that experienced lawyers would permit such a letter to go in the name of the situation in Kenya. It is a replica of what happened in the Supreme Court. You remember the hot air story. You remember the Jose Camargo story. And you remember the purported evidence that came in form of evid, what they called the PBR.
But Jose Camargo is around.
But
so don't just beware.
No. How they packaged it to Dibal was such a big thing. I was one of the lawyers in Supreme Court, and when my colleagues could speak about it before they played it out to the court, you would think that they have evidence. You would think that they have a serious story against the results that had been declared. When they were asked by the judges, it became hot air, and it's still hot air up to date. And that is why they're talking about the story of Savas, which was done and dusted, closed, and we moved on. So the ICC story is as dead as it ought to be. Why? Because we have not yet committed those crimes. There is, in fact, now they call that it is the person in Raila and team that has been causing chaos in the country. They have destroyed people's property. They have attacked police officers who, by the way, as required by the Constitution, have been undertaking what they're supposed to: protect property, keep peace, and protect the demonstrators as and when they are doing what the Constitution of Kenya allows them to do. So, in fact, for them to do a letter to ICC is the normal story that we are now getting used to. The cheap publicity, the story of I'm aggrieved when you want to seek sympathy, and unnecessary publicity for purposes of doing the wrong thing, the illegal thing, the thing that is not popular to the people of Kenya. So it's shocking when you read the contents of that letter. A whole lawyer, senior for that matter, purporting to be the one advising Azimio leadership and the person in Raila to tell ICC that it's a crime for him to see that MPs who have independence of mind, and remember these are leaders who've been elected by thousands and thousands of people from their constituencies, to make a choice on where to vote. For him to tell ICC that it is Kenya Kwanza buying MPs, I mean, it's nonsense to come from him as a lawyer, to come from Azimio as a coalition. Who would buy MPs? We've talked about these stories, and I think it's, for lack of a better term, a description. An MP is someone who's been elected to represent the interests of the people. My colleague here, Dr. Nyikal, has the mandate of his people from Seme, and he's entitled to make certain decisions. Whether he is pro or against Azimio, he is independent at the end of the day, and he does what his people would expect him to do. For him to write twice is, I mean, it's the sort of shame that we are showing to the world, the kind of and the caliber of lawyers that Azimio as a team has advising them are those ones. It's a pity, it's worry, it's something that I would call the cheap publicity story that will not go beyond where it has reached.
We are washing our dirty linen in
I mean, it's
in the world global gallery.
Yes.
Yeah, that in-house dealings that we can actually solve them, they actually taken to ICC. So has it passed through, the rigmarole of very good intellectual minds that we have within the Azimio team. It is just not Paul Mwangi. We have Senior Counsel Kalonzo Musyoka, we have Martha Karua, we have Otienda Molo, and we have Senator Orengo as well, Senior Counsel, Governor Orengo, Senior Counsel as well.
Allow me to say this before Honorable Beatrice says. You've named big names, and that is actually a confirmation of the fact that it is got nothing to do with the legality, the objectivity of whatever they are claiming. I'm very sure those names you've mentioned, if given an opportunity to be objective and independent-minded and also professional, they would say we are not yet in the threshold. But because this is politics of Raila, Raila's way or the highway, professionals will never get involved.
Okay. First of all, let me say this. Without looking at all the other words and without, it's not about Raila's way or the highway. But then, on this letter, it is about, you send your letter. We just opened another Pandora. Now, the victims, the ones their shops were burnt, the ones supermarkets were taken, do you know now they're going to write another letter? Yeah. That's why I'm saying, when we are doing it, let us also ask ourselves very critical questions as we move. So all we have done is to sharpen again another thing. So now, victims of Kibera, the 50, I don't know how many, 125, they will be taken. They are going to write another letter, Dibal. And we will find ourselves again looking very, very, as you say, when you go to that Hague, and that's how I got surprised also. See, it was government. See, I was on that time government side. Mheshimiwa Nikal was also in that government side that time. But then you end up, and you're wondering, how did it end up again to fall? So both of you find yourselves into a situation again, then you ask yourselves, we are all Kenyans. See, we just go back home and deal with this issue. That is why it is important, when we are doing it, let us be very wary that as you do it, ask yourselves the pros and cons of both as you do it, as we move forward. We have a right to do it, to go to Hague, but just remember, 2 teams will be there with everything. And so when we have started ours, can we now sharpen? Because our biggest weakness is how we sharpen to the end. I think it has been our undoing. Even right now, the showdowns you are hearing, senators talking about numbers and all of us lamenting here, it is because the time the first team moved, why we never took action? We left them to just go as if it is a joke, and yet we knew very well in their regions they used the Prime Minister to make sure they were elected. But let me tell you, Dibal, when they walked in and all of a sudden we are now struggling, who is majority, who is minority, they had already gone. I don't know why we brushed it off and not decided to just deal with them the way now we want to deal with Jubilee. That is how we would have dealt with UDM. The first day they walked away. But the moment we left them to go, it means even if you go where, that example will be used on us to be told, how come UDM left? Nobody talks. We are also leaving. And now they will bring in this thing. And another biggest mistake we did, which I know I went to a media house, I really, really questioned, was the ruling of our Right Honorable Speaker. That ruling is going to haunt us on this matter of now we are about to fight. The one for Senate was better because their ruling, I think, was a better ruling. But do you know, in our ruling, the Right Honorable expanded the word coalition. We are not coalition in National Assembly. We are not. And we are about to start fighting and go into a war, yet we refused. I remember me and Ivo Obara, we questioned it. We said, how have we just left that ruling? But the leadership had already left. We started doing other things there, forgetting this ruling will haunt us. I went on Media House. I said, I just want to remind our team that ruling is going to haunt us in many things that we are going to do. And in the end, and I want you to go and download that ruling so that when you come and question us, you'll also have read. When he expunged, so it ended up that UDA is the majority. ODM is the second largest party in the National Assembly. Third largest is this Jubilee. and fourth is Wiper. And so, there's no coalition. Our leadership just kept quiet, and now we are about to start coming as a coalition. That one speaker is going to hit on us. He will always just read his ruling. I communicated. Did anyone? Did you question? Nothing. That's the same problem now also. I want to say this, and I know maybe I will rattle, but not in a bad way, that sometimes His Excellency, the Prime Minister, sees beyond what we see. But the way we handle the things as handlers, it is very unfortunate that we will always be the ones who will just bring him down. And because we know he has a heart that comes in and just says, okay, fine, we have done this one wrong, so I'll look for this route, then we use. That is the biggest challenge. The team, our team, has always done to His Excellency the Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. And after we have done that, we who are the top, we tend to leave it, and then young people will just come and embrace him and build. Then we will come and ride on it again. Then when we are riding on it, again we are the ones who hit it and just take him again to another trajectory that is not right. Okay. So I will say that, yes, I will agree and disagree with what Senator has said, but at the same time, I will say, on this one of ICC, we will have two fronts. Just let us prepare. So I'm hoping our team is preparing, because two fronts are just coming. We've opened. The same way, I would wish to tell also the government side. You see, when you take government and you are willing to run government, sometimes it is for you now to run the country in more actions than always putting this spirit of answering each other. So when we go for a baraza, for example, you have also gone to church, you end up making it a baraza. The same way we are speaking, the wrongs that I will want, and I'll say it here candidly, that thing of mass action, I'll never support it, by the way, but a baraza, where Baba goes and speaks to the people seated and they can listen to the message. That one, I am 100% a champion of it.
Thank you.
And so, even when they were at Kamkunji, it is not a mandamano. It is nothing. It was a baraza. The same way I was in a church in Kasarani, I spoke of the issues that I feel that we must put together as a country. The same way the government goes to church in Machakos, they spoke. They were speaking to people. You can call it church, you can call it baraza, you can call it. In a way, in a manner that we also try and look all of us and accept our country is hurting. This economy we are speaking, it is not just the government that will make. This economy, we have to sit all Kenyans and agree to make it.
Thank you. Let me come just to Danson Mungatana on this as well. First of all, you've seen what was happening on Tuesday. You were at State House. We have the 7-team member from Kenya Kwanza. We have Hilary Segei, who is one of them. By the way, he's also nicknamed Bipartisan. He's Hilary Segei Bipartisan. And in the story that we hear, especially on this, UDA swallowing some of these major parties to be under its umbrella. There is no coalition at all. And the fighting that is ongoing, even within Azimio and Jubilee, where we have Sabina Chege now, who is being threatened that, her position will be recalled because of sort of deeming. Is UDA, and we've asked this, is UDA on a path of undermining, the multi-party democracy in this country? If what really the president is espousing is democracy and he wants, strong opposition, his action it belies what he's doing.
No. Tibal, we are in politics. Okay? We are in politics. It is not my business to go and sit down and organize ODM so that they oppose me. It is my business to disorganize them. And I will do that. I am Senator UDA, Tana River County. It is not my business to go and look for my opponent there, tell him, what you need to do is this, so that you can beat me in the next election. No. My business is to make sure that he is as disorganized as possible. It is his business to organize himself so that he can defeat me in the next election. So what Raila is doing and what people are not seeing is that he's organizing himself for the next general election to face William Ruto again, which I promise him we will defeat him. People are seeing, oh, maandamano, what. Baba knows it is not about high cost of living. It is not about, I don't know, ICC. It is not about Gachagua. He's just trying to mobilize his people and his base so that they see him as a candidate in the next general election. Let us not be told, why was IEBC dropped? It's not, servers, nobody talks about them. When he started saying he's winning, he won, and then it wasn't pulling traction, he shifts to, oh, it's the cost of unga and whatnot. And you know what we are doing? We are playing into his game. And we will not allow, as a government, to play into that game. You know, the whole of this country now is talking ICC. And yet, 48,000 tons of maize arrived, which will have a direct impact on the cost of unga. Raila doesn't want that discussed or even mentioned anywhere. He wants us to talk about, high cost of living. He's not even defining what it is. He's not talking about our agenda. That right now, we are going to control the dollar rate because we have had a government-to-government agreement. We are not buying the oil in cash. So those who are holding dollars very soon will find that we are not fighting to get those dollars and their value will go down. Raila doesn't want that discussed. He wants us to be engaged in some agenda that has really no direct impact on what our people are going through. When they were being asked, how come the cost of unga at that time was 230 when you were in collaboration with government and now it's at 180? And you didn't undermine at that time, and he cannot, he cannot answer those questions. But he's organizing, mobilizing, telling people stories so that people can believe and follow for 2027. And as we are talking now, there's no other opposition figure. Even the story, Kalonzo will inherit what, there's nothing like that. The person who has managed to now give people stories so that they mobilize for 2027 is one guy. And he is going to be the candidate yet again. And he's preparing for that battle. We are on the other side. We are being told, because you are in government, don't answer this guy, what. I'm telling you what Gachagua is doing. He is doing it for the good of the government and for the good of those people who are thinking like us. He has the platform because he's the DP. Me, if I say it, it may not get coverage. But him, if he says it, can answer whatever Raila is saying. But he has to neutralize that because we have understood the game is politics. It's not about, I don't know, freedom of press, I don't know what, freedom of maandamano and whatnot. How come Malema on the same date, because I left South Africa, I left Johannesburg on 2 days before, because I was coming back home from Pan-African Parliament. They did their maandamano. Police were in front, police were on the side. People came out, they said what they had to say, and then they went back. How come Malema, we are not hearing any more about, the government is illegitimate, it has been captured, I don't know what. He is just pushing the ideas, the ideas that he had as an opposition figure, and he's younger than Raila. Raila's business now is preparing for 2027. All these manenos, people are just being used. In fact, huge intellectuals, and I'm surprised because, by the way, even them, some of them, I believe, know what they are doing. That is why they will not talk about it, because they know for me to win in my area, I need the support of Raila. So they will follow him, not because they believe in the things that are being said now, but because they know they want those tickets so that they can win the election. Because they know if the guy is on the ticket, Raila is on the ticket, they will get elected. Let us tell the truth, for once. I've been talking about political truth, political responsibility. People don't want to practice political responsibility, political truths. That is why when they went to court, like my colleague here has said, When you are challenged to bring those things that you say, oh, there is a whistleblower, oh, there is what? Bring the evidence. You know, in court, it's not about how big, how small you are. It's not how big a name or what. It's not how many political statements you've given outside. It is the evidence. And in those circumstances, Raila has nothing to tell us. His team has nothing to tell us. In fact, the Supreme Court told them what it is. So then they know they cannot thrive there. So let us go back to the people and tell them, oh, hata hiyo imekuwa captured, police have been captured, what has been captured. They have tried to create this narrative, false narrative. And let me tell Kenyans, and I want to appeal to them, tell Baba when you see him that he must give us a chance to govern this country. You lost the election, accept it. Give us the chance to govern. And then if you want to maintain your respect, play your role. If the processes are, the policies the government is putting are bad, play your role. Come out and say, Ruto, this is nonsense. Ruto, this is wrong. This is what? Say, this is your role.
Thank you.
And you know why I need to say this is because Kenyans have forgotten, you know, that in every government there are two sides. There are two sides, there are two opinions. In every situation, there, in fact, even God has not killed the devil. He has allowed him to say discourse are nice, and he has allowed us to say church is good. He has, you know, he has allowed that to Nini. Even in the creation of the atom, there has got to be a balance. So this is okay. This is okay. Let him play his role. But this story of being told, oh, the election was won, oh, the cost of living is big, oh, I don't know what. The guy must take his role. Even Julius Malema has advised him, take your role. Let
me hear from Dr. Just a moment.
is-
I wanted, first of all, for you to comment on this headline that we have on the Star as well, that Venezuelans are back to clean, so to speak, the servers. Raila now claims. First of all, in this,
let me just keep
can we
quiet.
now separate propaganda and what the reality on the ground? In this advent and epic of time that we're living in, of technology, if you've seen Jose Camargo anywhere, or any Venezuelans, why don't we have pictures of them? Because you've spotted them.
Let me say
So that
this.
at least it can add credence to what...
I agree with you.
Yes.
If we leave propaganda and everything, the first place we should leave that propaganda and everything of this table. We are talking to the country. So, you know, like Honorable Ngatana said very interesting things. He first of all says, it is politics, it is our duty to disorganize ODM. That's okay. But then he seems now to think it would be wrong for ODM then to disorganize UDA. And then he goes on against Mr. Odinga. Actually, what Raila, I think is God sent to this country. So that anything you are unable to do as a government, you put it as Raila is the one who is doing this. But we have to look at the issues that they are being raised. Dibal, what has come out here, a very important principle that I've been listening. What is the role of politics? And what is the role of the executive? What you have done is mixed too. Honorable Ngatana is absolutely right that the politicians will try to destroy each other, to disorganize each other, and so on. But the executive and the president has a dual responsibility there. The executive must remain neutral to make sure that those distractions that are being done for political reasons do not permeate down into the administration for the delivery of services. Because as politicians we must realize there are basically two areas in this world. There's the physical world we live in, the tea we take, the table we sit on, the roads we drive, the food we eat. Those are physical and they have their own laws. Those laws politicians have no control over. How the maize grows, the professionals have that because they have studied it and they have not studied at all.
But
what politicians... I'm coming.
What neutrality has he breached?
I'm
That's
coming
what I
to
want
that.
to hear.
I'm coming to that. Now, what politicians have to do is to organize that. We must also see the bigger role of politics It cannot be just to win a position. When you have won that position, what do? If you won the position and then people are not getting the physical things that they need for life, what is that powerful? So in this case, in my view, what is bothering me and related to ICC, the people who are in the executive at certain positions that are critical, why, and the lawyers are here, why have we made us the Constitution to protect them? We want the Constitution to protect them so that they can do these things in a neutral way. The IG, when he's conducting himself as the IG, should realize that he's protecting everybody. He shouldn't, even when people are demonstrating, even those demonstrators need to be protected. We shouldn't see flagrant things where it is clear that this officer is going beyond the protection of anything else. And that they should take care. When you are a director of public prosecution, you should not look like you have been ordered.
Dr. Nyikal, you made those comments before, so I think you're regurgitating.
Yes.
You can actually just answer directly what Danson Mungatana has asked you. First of all, he's alleged that most of you politicians who are in the Azimio camp, you're actually clinging on Raila Odinga for political expediency. Most of you don't believe in these things that actually are on the table with the ICC cases, the demonstrations themselves. But because of the name of Raila Odinga,
I'll tell you
it
why.
is all for your political interest.
I'm going to tell you the third time. I told you that I actually, for a long time, believe that there are things we can solve amicably. We can go to our institutions and we can use those institutions to talk them. I now don't believe. And I told you the day I changed that, the day we did not discuss the appointment of the deputy director of public central bank. Because that
they put the question.
They put the question. Then I know Parliament
and
was,
you read the mood.
And Parliament was, I know Parliament was lost. The day that the decision that Honorable Elachi was talking about, the decision was made. That's why I said supermajority is actually can be dangerous. But it then gives a huge responsibility to the person who is heading the supermajority to know it is now my duty to direct this country almost single-handedly. I have to balance it. But if you say this has given me the right to do everything, then who now checks things? And from that time I realized it is now the duty of the opposition to use any means, including demonstrations, to actually check them. Going to ICC, I still think that if we believe that those cases do not merit, they will fall on their own. But as Honorable Elachi was saying, we are opening a Pandora's box. As a country, we should look at that Pandora's box before there is need to open it elsewhere. Now, if the Honorable Mwatanga says that all it is about is 2027, can I ask him that in Udasai, all that it is about is 2027? They have dual responsibility before them. One, as politicians, they should work towards 2027. That's agreed. But two, as people who are holding the reign, they have the responsibility that the country is run well, and that the systems work, and that people in senior positions are actually allowed to execute those senior positions.
Thank you. Let me come from Hillary. I come to you, Hillary, and ask the question regarding, first of all, the constitution of this 7-member team, the 14-member team, and your side. They've been raising special umbrage with the fact that we have Canaan in this particular team. Why would you put Canaan, who is in Azimio side, on your team?
Before I respond to that, Debal, allow me to correct a certain impression that has been created by the comments, actually twice, by the Honorable Nyikal on the vetting and approval of the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. I sit in the Senate. My colleagues, chaired by the Honorable Roba, that is the Finance Committee, and the National Assembly Committee sat. I have gone through a clip on the archives of what transpired. It's not true that a committee of a whole house, National Assembly and the Senate, could not vet, and a question was put. I initially thought he was making comments on...
It was the plenary, not the
on
committee.
the beauty of it all.
We're
It
talking
was
about
the plenary.
of the National Assembly.
Yes.
The plenary
Now,
of the National Assembly.
From the committee, we received a report as a Senate of what transpired before the committee. As a Senate, we discussed it. Now,
Plenary.
ordinarily what happens, and you're a seasoned legislator. I just came into Bunge the other day for my first time. If and when the Speaker is presiding over the House, the Honorable Elachi has been a Speaker. I sit in the Speaker's panel. If a motion has been placed in the order paper and no member proposes or seeks to attract the attention of the Speaker that I need to comment about this one, the Speaker has got no eyes. He cannot ask you to do it. It doesn't happen that way, and you know that. So it is a very bad impression. You know, we are on national TV telling Kenyans that the person who is sitting in the office of the Deputy Governor, CBK, was not discussed, which is not true.
In the plenary.
That went through the House, a conversation was done, and by the way, the person who is there is a very competent, seasoned financial
The competence
person.
is not the
And
issue,
therefore,
the process.
And therefore, for purposes of the public, I just wanted to correct that one.
No, for the purpose of public, I'll also correct something. How, in the current parliament, do you attract the attention of the Speaker?
And that
no, tell the country.
And that is the story.
Tell the
And that is the
country.
story I was saying. Yes, but allow me to finish, to respond to you, sorry.
Answer his question.
How do you attract the attention of the Speaker?
Yes.
You press. The Speaker permits you to speak on the basis of the order of the requests that are made.
Yes.
And so, if no request is made, the Speaker will see a plain screen, and therefore he can go ahead and put
There's
the
no
question.
plain screen.
And
Period.
then I put mine.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No,
I'm just saying. If
Assembly.
no request is
You
made,
can't find a plain screen.
It is impossible.
Plain screen on the other side. Maybe you're not
members-
privy. You've not really checked.
Exactly.
No, I actually press my button.
Dr. Nyikal, you can't say that there's no plain screen, as my colleague is saying, when you are not sitting in the Speaker's, you're not on the desk.
on the Speaker's
I know, because when I
at
press
times,
mine, it shows on my screen as well. It shows on my tablet.
I at times also sit when I am in the chair, and you see it's plain screen. That is what the impression I wanted to correct.
But let
Because
me
we
say
want
this
also
before
to
he
make sure
answers.
that.
Let me tell you, Dibel, how it works.
No,
When you want to draw the
I
attention
allowed
of the
you,
Speaker-
Dr. Nyikal, to speak.
No, don't. When I want to talk, it's you I'm informing. When I want to speak, I press.
But at the same
button.
time,
when
one
I
would say
press
you
that
don't allow-
button, it lights up. Once it lights up, it is clearly on the Speaker's screen. So
And
the
that is
Speaker
why,
seeing
Nyikal, I'm
everything.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
So you want to actually say the Speaker is usurping that system.
They
When you press-
did that time.
They did that time.
Yes.
So you never had a chance to actually
No,
discuss.
I actually walked the
That is
presiding
part
person and
is
said-
part of
I
the
actually
whole.
said history has been made today.
Dr. Nyikal, that is part of the hot air story that I spoke about
It
earlier.
is
on.
not hot
It is
air.
part of the populist statements that we would want to avoid as
know,
leaders,
you
as
know.
Kenyans who've been
You know,
given
Deba-
mandate
Deba,
by the people of
I
Kenya.
once told you
Consent.
that once in this table we have somebody who's not saying the truth. I start
And
to
that
feel-
person is probably Dr. Nyikal.
no, I start to feel like I should not be. On the simple technical fact that the screen
Okay,
was blank.
let's not
but
bog
you
down
know,
because I
that-
think we're
that-
past
that
the
is-
junction.
that is actually
It's
the
okay.
unfortunate
I
thing.
just wanted to close
Can-
it by saying this.
can he finish?
Before he finishes,
allow me
I
to
close
finish.
it by saying this. In good governance, Parliament is also a place where people do research, where people come and look at the archives. Just for good governance and for the legacy of Kenya Kwanza, allow a few people, because in the end, you'll have, in fact, in the National Assembly, not that people will refuse to pass, no, but allow just people to put in a few good comments, not the way also we do ours, but people to do research and just say it, so that next time, if anything happens, you'll go back to the archives and just be able to read what did members say about this person. It's important.
From the House.
And just to close on that bit, because I felt I needed to comment because I participated in part of the research that the Honorable Elachi said. Whenever I sit in the Speaker's chair, I alternate give to the people on both sides. I do on the left, on the right. If Honorable Mokatana speaks, he has placed that request. He is on the majority side. He speaks. I'll not give to the second person from the majority side if there is a request from the minority side, and that
That's
is
fair.
part of what we do. And I would also expect the same to apply in the National Assembly. And that is the story I really say
That
we
they
needed
did.
to make sure, because history is there. There is the Hansard, the history that we're talking about, so that tomorrow a generation can come and say, what was the conversation about here? What did people say? And what was the reason why this person was approved or not? And that is what happens in the floor of the House. Now, to your question, the 7-member
Yes.
bipartisan team. Your question is asking why we have included the Honorable Kainan in our team. Remember, the beauty about democracy. And I liked how my colleague Mokatana put it earlier on, that it's not the business of a competitor or a competing political party to organize the other party. In fact, it's the other way around. Disorganized because you're in competition. Competition is make sure you are ahead of your competitor. And how I wish then that Azimio, ODM would realize the fact that certain political parties, members at their individual level, have moved on for obvious reasons. One, to also organize themselves for tomorrow or for 2027 election. And two, to ensure that they also get an environment to work for the people who elected them. The Honorable Kainan and the Jubilee team, remember, have crossed over to work with the Kenya Kwanza government. That is a fact. That is something that we have seen. They have talked to the media and to the Kenyans. And a number of them have actually gotten, I would call, they've been requested by their electorates to plan for the future. And they have said this. In fact, the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, though he's in Azimio, I'm sure he does not. And if you listen to him carefully in all his comments, there are a lot of comments that he's saying, as a leader, I do not approve of the positions which are taken. But then he must also prepare himself so that he protects his political interest, not only on this table, but back at the constituency. And so there is no harm and no law was breached by inclusion of the Honorable Kainan in the 7-member committee by Kenya Kwanza.
Is this part of what Senator Mungatana is saying, that Ruto is disorganizing the opposition? This is a political slate of hand?
For a lack of a better term, for lack of a better term, we have no business, dealing with Azimio. And by the way, they have got no business controlling on who among our members is to join the 7-member team. They have got no business. If they have genuine issues to be discussed, it doesn't matter who we discuss from this end.
Yeah.
Even if we are to give them
and there is no coalition at the end of the day.
That is the issue.
So there is no coalition. That is the issue. So you don't even have any voice.
What we are saying,
you as Azimio to ask.
No, what we are saying, the lawyers are here. And what actually we should ask ourselves, there's a law that was passed about coalition, even the constitution talks
We
about
need to wind up.
coalition. So really,
that law, let me just answer him right away. Let me just answer him right away. Yes, let me just answer him right away. The coalition agreement that exists, remember the speaker by the way made a ruling, and Elachi has talked about it. The coalition agreement between ODM, Jubilee, and the rest of the parties had a sunset clause. And the law, actually the political parties, allowed them to exit or to expire within 3 months. How far are we after the general election? August, it's now 6 months. Automatically, that particular clause can be brought to activate. And I'm sure that is what exactly happened.
Be brought.
You cannot force someone to be in a marriage when they have moved on. I mean, you've been denied, they've refused you. What business do you want to hold them onto them? So they have exercised their right under the political parties.
It's interesting that we're supposed to be warning them, and it's getting very interesting. Because the question I wanted to ask before you go on with your point is the fact that now we have Sabina Chege and her position on a very slippery slope. If there is no coalition, then on what mandate also is she on this particular seat?
That's why I said, Tipal, we need that communication. We have to discuss it so that it's very clear to Kenyans, so that if you want to go to court, you go to court knowing how to deal with the matter. Secondly, as I said, and that's why I said it is good to say it so that we come and deal with it. 3 things that I think we have to deal with. Number one, we as Azimio must go back to our coalition document and look at it critically and see how we signed. And I know my senior is here. You remember we were also a bit taken aback on how they just did and brought it in. You know, the moment you table such a document on the floor of the House, you've opened it up for debate, for a lot of punches on it, which happened. And that is where the Kenya Kwanza got a gap to just hit on us because of, one, our
It was not a really tight
It was not
argument.
even signed.
It was not even signed.
It was not signed, and we saw it on the screen.
Well, that is one. Two, now we go back to this matter of also our parties within our coalition. This thing of when you want something, this party sends a letter, instead of just having one letterhead, the Azimio letterhead. It brings tidiness, but at the same time, in terms of law, it now ensures you are enforced, whether you like it or you don't like it within. But the worst we did, every party again brought in each their own requests. So somebody uses that to now hit on us, that you see. And that is why Canaan and team will use that. Why? First of all, Jubilee brought us 2 letters at that time. Then we had to now discuss. They had to be told, go and do, put your house in order. That is the time the leadership needed to have just said, point of order, Mr. Speaker, it is not for them, it is for us as Mio to bring in who will be our person.
Right.
Then the last thing we have to agree,
I need to wind up now.
that we have to work around as we move forward, is that we must go back. The parties that have remained in Azimio must go back to the registrar of political parties, redo something that can tighten now the rest.
Thank you.
So that we remain
Thank
as
you.
a coalition.
I'm sorry. I know you have a lot to say, but I need just to butt in and we wind up on that as well. I don't have the luxury of time also to just give you headline thoughts, but I know the Oga continues. The political drama Oga here.
There's no Oga. You read the law. You see, I always say, if you are a good
There's
person,
no Oga.
there's no Oga. If you're a guy, if you're a person who believes in good governance,
Yes.
just read your documents and follow the instructions as they are.
Thank you.
And as I said, this thing, and it is for the future. It is wrong when you're a political party. If you believe in
Thank you.
Kenya Kwanza, believe. If we believe in the Constitution the way the Americans believe and we borrowed from them,
Thank you.
then let us deal with Parliament the
All
way
right.
the
So
Democrats
now you have a
and the
handy opportunity
Republicans
to tidy up with
deal
the party,
with it.
with the party hopping and the party hygiene and party politics.
party
This is a
hopping
good, is a
will
good
never
time.
stop.
Right. Danson Mungatana, Senator of Tana River, I really appreciate you coming through this morning.
My last thoughts.
Your last thoughts? Okay.
Just
I'm
20 seconds.
Actually, I've really
minute.
taken a lot of time. Okay, let me just give you 10 seconds.
1 minute.
1 minute, no.
I'm
30
saying
seconds.
one, two,
Okay,
three. Let me
You
just
can
say
afford
30
4
seconds.
minutes.
Kenyans living in diaspora, according to the central bank data, have given $357 million, which is like 48 billion, in the month of March, representing 15% increase from February. There is hope in this country. We have brought in 48 tons of maize. There is hope in this country that the money we spent on maize is going to come down. We have a government-to-government agreement, meaning the purchase of oil is going to be less pressurizing
Thank
on
you.
the dollar.
Thank you.
We have hope.
I need
we
to cut
can
it there.
we can go better.
There is hope.
Yeah, there is
Hope.
hope in this country, and we are going to do better.
Thank you,
Let
Dad.
them stop listening
Thank
to
you.
the opposition and
Nika,
demonstrations.
a one-liner from you as well.
It is the duty of who is holding responsibility, however they got the responsibility to make that the welfare of the people is taken care of. And it's the duty of those in opposition to keep them to task.
Thank you.
To do that.
Good point. Hillary?
Indeed, there is hope under the Kenya Kwanza government and plan to make better people, to make better lives of the people of Kenya. The bipartisan team from Kenya Kwanza is ready, willing, and available to begin the talks.
Thank you.
Without necessarily going extra
Thank you.
legal or unconstitutional.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bipartisan means all of you, both sides, you are the cooler. You must cool down on the temperature, stop politicizing everything, the 7 side, but just enter in a room and make Kenya move for the economy to
Thank
grow.
you. So we are ready for the Kool-Aid. Well, we wind it up on that particular note. Thank you very much for watching Standpoint. We have the sports chat, which is up next.